Hey everyone, Pupsker here, and today in Warframe, we're gonna go over the weapon, the Dual Toxocyst Incarnon, seen here. It is an insanely strong headshot and bullet hose weapon, which has a both ricochet Incarnon mechanic and a fire rate increase and ammo efficiency mechanic. Essentially, if you headshot, you get a good strong buff and you do a ton of damage, meaning this weapon is a great weapon to build for headshot builds. As you can see, once it goes Incarnon, if you're doing a headshot build, your crit chance is through the roof, your damage is through the roof, and you're probably clearing house. And because of the fire rate buff, it's an absolute bullet hose. So it's really strong once you actually get a couple kills on it via headshots to actually build the frenzy buff. And one thing I didn't mention about the frenzy buff, it's inherent on the Dual Toxocyst, is it also gives you 100% toxin damage. So even if you're not using toxin, you might be applying a little bit of viral, right? You see now I'm using viral there, viral here. I believe I'm using blast on this build, but because of the Dual Toxocyst, it's becoming viral. No, actually, no, I am using viral on this build. It becomes just 100% toxin outright as a buff, and on my other build I have blast. Sorry, I was getting a little confused. Either way, that's my quick little showcase for the Dual Toxocyst Incarnon. Let's go over the builds, and you can judge the weapon as you see fit. As always, remember to like, sub, use Epic Games creator code Pupsker, and just let me know what your general build and thoughts of the gun is in your comments down below. Going over my first Dual Toxocyst build, if you take a look at the Incarnon form, we'll take a look at this first, it's the same for both builds. Gain an auto fire mode and ricochet. That is the big thing about this gun. It has a built-in ricochet, okay? And that is inherently amazing on any sort of gun because beam weapons, ricochet, anything that can kill a lot of enemies, AoE explosions, amazing. This is the build I have, and this is what the frenzy buff looks like. Headshots grant 150% fire rate, 100% ammo efficiency, and 100% chance toxic damage for 3 seconds. Toxin will combine with mods. Okay, no, it does combine with mods. That is what the build I'm using looks like right now with Primary Deadhead. We'll go over it more after we look at Incarnon form. First Incarnon I have built. I have increased base damage. I should take off the Multishot when I'm using this secondary headshot build because it can't take advantage of the Multishot. So instead, you definitely want to use a Carnage Rain, okay? For this Evolution 3, you have Weapon Recoil, Magazine Reload when holstered, or Reload from empty reload speed. Choose really whatever you choose. I do Weapon Recoil because it's way easier to shoot, and it's just preferred. Lastly, you have Increased Base Crit Chance. I love, pick it all the time. You have on headshot plus 70% toxin. With your frenzy buff, I just don't think this is necessary at all. Or you have on kill punch through for 7 seconds. That is really good if you plan to do more of a CC build, okay? But I, of course, am just a lazy general builder, so I threw on base crit chance. Now, like I was saying, this is the first build we're gonna go over. It's my config B. This is the headshot build. This cannot build multi-shot. That is why I swapped my Evolution 2 to the kind of like condition overload styled mod right there. But if you want to use a multi-shot or like normal non-headshot build, feel free to like swap on over to multi-shot. You're going to absolutely wreck house no matter what, as you saw in the previous footage. So I have Hornet Strike for damage, Gunslinger for fire rate, Galvanized Crosshairs for headshot crit chance and aiming crit chance, Frostbite for some cold, Pistol Pestilence for toxic, because I have viral built up on this one. Change to whatever type of elements you want, okay? I prefer just either throwing on viral or blast or corrosive or some radiation splashing, but I don't pay too much attention to the meta of all of the elements, right? Primed Heated Charge Heat, Pistol Acuity is the big mod, right? That's what makes it a weak point headshot build. You gain weak point damage, you gain weak point crit chance, and multi-shot cannot be modified. So you take off any sort of multi-shot, still have crit damage there. Might be a good idea to swap things around. I would throw on a Galvanized Shot mod if I could like splash it in, but this is only a 4-forma build, so nothing too serious there. And on my other config, Galvanized Diffusion is still really good. Feel free though to always throw on whatever you feel like. Prime Convulsion, whatever you like. Never really a bad choice, but this is build mod build 1. So as you were seeing when I was fighting enemies, it does a lot of damage. I will first show it off without actually using any of my abilities on my Ureli. So you get your headshots, you're hitting orange crits, not too shabby, right? I hit a 1 million orange crit. Everything's dying because of my, my Vulpaphyla already, but if you don't have a Vulpaphyla, you can start hitting a ton of headshots and it ricochets around and it's just an absolute bullet hose, okay? You do need to remember you need to gain that frenzy buff, make sure you get your headshot kills, and then it turns into a powerhouse. The annoying part is with any sort of headshot build, you have to make sure it headshots. If you headshot the enemy, the ricochet should headshot everyone around it. So if you get like a headshot here, you'll get a headshot there. But since you do not have multi-shot on your first build, you get a little less ricochet and it's less cool. So that right there is the current headshot build I'm using, just for fun, general steel path gameplay. Absolutely shreds through enemies like they're butter. Eximus units are mere child's play to this sort of godly weapon, right? If we clear everything, we throw on an Eximus, sort of just bombard Eximuses, right? Throw on 20 of those bad boys. You'll see, boom! They just start shredding through all of them one by one. The headshots are huge. You're hitting millions of red crits. And that is without me using any of my Ureli buffs, by the way, because I am a Ureli, if you didn't notice. And with Ureli, it means I can get a boost if I'm constantly moving, if I'm using Marilena, right? I can throw that on, and then I can go like that. I'm hitting millions, and we're hitting 3-4 million. So I can get a ton of additional boosters on my character via other weapons, right? I hit like 15 million red crit right there, so keep that in mind. Even without multi-shot, you can do an absolutely insane amount of damage, shred through all the Eximus units, and Ureli and any sort of Warframe that takes good advantage of secondaries will do a great job at that. So now with mod build number 2, we're doing a generalized build, so we'd want to swap over to multi-shot, or you can keep using like Carnage Rain, no problem, you'll still do a ton of damage, okay? Not really bad. The reason Hornet Strike and stuff like that you might not want to add on is because it's just more damage building. So you can always swap out Hornet Strike, sure, if you have the mod chance for something like Galvanized Shot, but it is just more damage building. But you can always just build however you choose. I wouldn't worry about it. This is my build that I have thrown on here, because I have Galvanized Shot, I have Multi-Shot, Hornet Strike for some base damage, secondary Deadhead for some base damage, but I still want the headshot multiplier, because I still want to shoot for headshots because of Frenzy 100% of the time. This is what I choose for my just general build. I have Blast on this one, and Blast is a ton of fun with like a multi-shot ricochet sort of build. Again, I don't like go for the most meta always of statuses, so choose whatever sort of status you like, but you can see instead of having crit shot headshot stuff, I have fire rate multi-shot, and I have multi-shot here. I was able to put Galvanized Shot in there, and instead of Galvanized Shot in this one, I still have just Pistol Pestilence to have viral, because my mods take up a little bit more. But other than that, the mod build is pretty similar. Instead of Creeping Bullseye, I threw on Pistol Acuity, right? Very similar, not 100% min-maxed to the like highest degree, but once you throw on Evolution 2 with your multi-shot, you still have weapon recoil, still have base crit chance. You're able to see just how much damage this does to a general group of enemies. We'll start off with Grineers. This is without having all of my Ureli buffs on right now, right? I just have base attack damage and buffs there. Because I have so much multi-shot, it's actually a lot easier to build up your damage and mow through enemies faster. So I would say this is the build you want to go with if you just want to mow through enemies faster at lower levels, okay? The reason why it's lower levels is because it's Blast, it does less overall high hitting damage, but it'll hit more overall shots per bullet. So I think it's less DPS, but it's more damage shots and damage numbers. Either way, once I build up stuff like this, I throw on my Marilena, use my abilities, right? Once you actually start doing stuff like that, your damage will be even higher. But you can see with this sort of build, the Dual Toxocyst Incarnon is pretty weak for crit, surprisingly. So it doesn't have an insanely high crit chance. That's why I took the 20% crit at the end of the evolutions. So even though it's strong, you're not hitting red crits easily on this unless you're building up a ton of crit chance via headshot multiplier mods like I was before, via different Warframe abilities. But the build is still really good if you want to mow through a large amount of enemies and you want to spend maybe like less time paying attention to shooting weak points, shooting headshots. Either way, it's still insane. You're still going to kill a lot of enemies, and I would definitely still recommend the Dual Toxocyst. The Dual Toxocyst Incarnon stats are luckily just a nice upgrade over the base Dual Toxocyst with both build 1 and build 2. So yeah, feel free to judge it as you will and let me know what your build is. Either way, let's go take this into a real world scenario, go run some Warframe 1999, and you can quickly see how this absolutely decimates enemies. We take the Dual Toxocyst Incarnon out to a real gameplay scenario, Steel Path, high-level enemies. You can see it no problem hits multi-million level crits on the Scaldra enemies. I am using the full powers of Ureli, so you want to be aiming, you want to shoot for headshots, right? 11 million, and you want to be moving around constantly. Because we're going for big buffs on these sort of weapons. You can totally still pull enemies into a sort of CC. You just have to try to hit those weak points. And it makes it a lot harder to hit headshots when I CC them. That's why I don't like to CC them constantly. Unless, let's say, I get my Incarnon form, and then I just ricochet CC. Because a lot of those hits will jump to weak points anyways. And then I can quickly drop that. So you just want to make sure with this sort of weapon, since it's such a bullet hose, since it has such good ricochet, shoot for those heads, try to aim if you're using the headshot aiming acuity build, and then you're good to go. But you should really have no problem running this sort of build in like this day and age in Warframe. If you're running the Dual Toxocyst, running the headshot build will absolutely kill enemies for a high amount of like Steel Path. If you're doing level 9999 gameplay, hey, maybe you'll want to re-optimize for a full Forma build. Maybe you'll want to go a little harder, but I think 4 Formas on this weapon's perfectly fine. I don't think you really need to do a full Forma build. I only like to do those on weapons that are struggling more so, just because they actually need it, right? But if the weapon shreds through Steel Path like butter up until like level 500, yeah, I just don't think it's necessary. But if you like to do level Warframe 9999 Steel Path runs, right? Go for it. Either way, everybody, that is the first build, the headshot, no multi-shot build in real life Steel Path. Let me know what you think, if you have like your other separated builds, or if you plan to use a build kinda like that. Always swapping around the mods for different faction damage is good. Maybe you want to throw on corrosive, maybe you want to throw on your specified faction damage mods. Hey, I don't know, but you will definitely clear house if you do. So yeah, just like keep that in mind. No matter what, as long as you have some decent builds, you'll probably do really well. So yeah, let me know what you think. On to the Multishot and just straight up damage build. Okay, everyone, I now have my Multishot, multiple non-primary acuity, I should say, secondary acuity build. So this is the build that essentially works more so on, it hits a lot of ricochets, and you have a lot of individual bullets going out. So instead of relying on a low amount of headshot damage, you have explosive damage so that it hits a lot of AoE. And I still want to hit headshots. I'm just less worried about hitting as many headshots because unlike the previous build, I do a lot of damage hitting the body of the enemies. I do a lot of damage anywhere I hit them. It's just less reliant on headshots. So this is definitely the preferred build. If you just want to play the game normally, maybe you just want to be lazy about it. You don't really want to go for only headshots, but you'll still see some individual red crits here and there where I'm doing good damage. I'm still hitting headshots because I have primary, like, primary deadhead? Secondary deadhead. I keep saying primary, but it's a secondary. Sorry about that. Secondary deadhead. So every 20 seconds, I have to get some headshot kills, right? But it's really easy, especially if you're solo, to get at least one headshot kill in a survival style mission every 20 seconds. Like, you could be pretty much blind and somewhat figure out how to get a headshot. You just gotta shoot at the general location of enemies, and since you also have ricochet on, You just have to hit one bullet into a head, and they're pretty much dead. It'll ricochet to enemies, hit them in the head, and then you'll get some headshot kills, okay? That's the strat. I know, you might be like, whoa, it's that easy? Yeah, like, that's Warframe, it's just that easy. You always want to do the thing where until you get to end game, you just build up those style of mods. You always want to have like a little bit of damage, a little bit of multi-shot, crit, and status as just a general thing. But some builds specialize in more crit and headshots and less multi-shot. Other builds more multi-shot, maybe like more fire rate. You just want to remember, Warframe damage is built on multipliers, so try to choose damage sources and damage types of every different multiplier. Multi-shot, damage, fire rate, status, crit. There's every source of damage in the game that you can think of, so as long as you're building your damage multipliers up, you should be pretty good to kill a lot of enemies, and I think the Dual Toxocyst as well as a lot of Incarnon show that off really well. You don't really have to pay too much attention to shooting enemies if you have CC, and you don't have to pay too much attention at shooting enemies as long as you're just like forward holding left click and using your auto fire. Either way, this was the fun casual Dual Toxocyst video, everybody. Let me know what you think, and as always, if you want to support the channel, you can sub to the YouTube channel, all the other socials, like and comment down below in the comment section, especially to appease the great YouTube algorithm. Remember to comment, reply to comments, and like the video. And I also have Epic Games creator code Pupsker. If anyone uses the Epic Games Store to buy Warframe Plat, buy anything in any game, it always helps out using my Epic Games creator code. So thank you, and until next time.